This is the ferry for Fogo Island. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I guess that's because in the winter it probably gets pretty windy and choppy. But I was just expecting a small little regional ferry. But this should be fun. At first I noticed a really interesting building in the landscape, but I didn't know what it was. So I went to a nearby art gallery and asked what it was, and I was told that it was one of 4 resident studios for artisan residents that the Fogo Island Arts has. That meant that I now had a scavenger hunt on my hands and that I had to find the other 3. This studio, I really appreciated the approach, how the boardwalk crosses a long stretch of the tundra, and how the studio comes into view slowly and sometimes it's hidden by some bushes, but that you have to walk quite a ways to get to it. This is exactly the kind of work I want to do right now. Small scale projects like houses, cabins, and studios that are really in the landscape. And what's interesting about this project is there's a really long boardwalk just to get to the building itself. And I think that really helps locate the project in the landscape. So I'm excited to see if I can find the other 3 buildings, studios around the island. I didn't know exactly where to go for the next 3 studios, so I continued on and took photos of the interesting communities and their small fishing sheds that were perched on the edge of the water. This is Fogo Island Inn by Saunders Architecture. At first I thought that the Fogo Island Inn was absolutely massive, but as I walked around it, I noticed that it had quite a refined level of detail to it. The hotel staff gave me direction to the next studio, which I could see across the water. When I got across, I looked back and noticed that the hotel did not look as big as it once did. I thought from a distance it fit quite well into the landscape and the community. Notice the ground condition. Each studio was set in a different landscape and had a different path material. As you got closer, the studio slowly revealed itself. This second studio was called the Long Studio, and I quite liked it because it was right beside a gaze, which was a hunting blind that was stacked stone. And it was quite relevant to me that the studio would look out on the water in the same way that the gaze did, and so that there was a historical and cultural connection to the landscape. This is the hunting blind called a gaze that they would have used for shelter and to ambush prey. I continued along the island road towards the heritage designated town of Tilting, which is where the third studio was, tucked up on the other side of a hill. I like this studio for its location. It was close enough to a larger community, but on its own and privately secluded on the other side of a hill. But because of that, it almost felt lonely, despite the beautiful view. On the other hand, the shape and the white paint made it the most glacial of the four. And I suppose to a large extent it must reference the icebergs that float by the island in the spring. In addition to the old heritage buildings, there's a lot of new construction going on the island, and I think the industry is quite healthy. Alright, I am on my way to number 4. I just got a glimpse of it, and it's down this hiking trail. Actually, this is Deep Bay, and number 4 is right there in the mountains, or in the hills. It's really cool that this is built up in the hills and without vehicle access. So they would have probably carried it all up, which is really impressive. That it sits so well in the landscape without disturbing the landscape. All right, Fogo Island Architectural Scavenger Hunt is complete with resounding success. I really liked the first studio because of the boardwalk, the approach. I thought there was a great narrative in that approach. I like the second one for its inspiration and history with the gaze, that it looked out on the water, but also referenced something that was there right beside it beforehand. The third one I really liked for its location because it was in a really beautiful community, but tucked on the other side of the hill and beside the water. And this fourth one, I really like that it's very contemplative. I like that it's in the hills up high, almost like in the mountains, and that to get the material up here they had to carry it all by hand. But it could have easily been placed so that it looked out on the water. Could have been placed on like the very top of a hill so that it had a 360 panoramic view. But instead it was placed with its back to the water and facing a little pond, and so it's very obviously contemplative, and I think that's really notable. I'm really happy with my day, and I'm gonna head to the ferry now, and yeah. I should also say that I did like the Fogo Island Inn. At first I thought it was too big. When I went up to it, I was like, holy moly, this building is massive compared to everything else on the island. It's huge. But then when I see it from a distance, like from the second studio across the bay, it looked really good. It from a distance, it fit in well to the kind of background of the townscape. And so I think overall I do like it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help grow the channel.